Did you know that you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership? If you haven't heard about Anchor, it is the easiest way to make a podcast. And best of all, there's absolutely no charge to do so. They have creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. And Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so you can be heard all over the place on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. It is definitely everything that you need to make a podcast in one place, one-stop shop. Make sure that you download that free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. You are tuned in to a female-hosted podcast who values you and your time. Each week, I will deliver short and sweet perspectives with no sidekick. So please, sit back, put your feet up, and allow me to bring you Drea's point of view. You are listening to Drea's Point of View. I am your hostess, Drea, and today's topic will be about National Adoption Month. I've always been curious about adopting a child. I always wanted to help other people, and just the thought of not being wanted, like being given away by your birth parents for whatever reason and just waiting for a home. So I'm always curious about the stats on that, like why people choose to adopt overseas versus at home, why there's a larger percentage of Asian babies, if anyone really adopts middle schoolers and high schoolers, because I always see babies. And here's what I found. In 1851, there was an adoption law that was passed called the Adoption of Children Act that focused on the child's best interests and not the adults. And then in 1933, the Hague Convention on the Protection of Children protected everyone's interests. 135,000 children are adopted every year in the United States. Of those, you've got 47% that are male, and 83% of those are born in the U.S. 49% of those are white, 16% black, and you've got 2% of those who are American Indian. As far as the average age of adopting in the U.S., it's 44. You can be married or single female, and most of those have some type of college education. In 2015, there were 12,000 international adoptions by 5,500, with 5,500 being adopted in the U.S. And the reasons they gave were to provide for a permanent, like I said, that I wanted one. They want to provide a permanent home, or they wanted to expand their family. Only 2% of people in the U.S. have actually adopted a child, which is interesting. 69,000 kids and teens in foster care don't live in a family environment. The birth mothers who give up their child do have the right to choose how open the adoption is. Like I always said, and there's a difference, of course, between the open and closed adoptions. I always said if I were to adopt, I'd want it open. I just can't imagine not knowing what goes on, like how they're doing, something. The open adoptions are those where the mom wants to be, kept up with the child's life and, by sending pictures or what have you. And the closed is having absolutely no connection whatsoever. The number of children being adopted from other countries has decreased, which I find shocking. Either country has banned that international adoption, or they make it harder to adopt. And some of those countries are China, Russia, and Ethiopia. In 2018, Texas had the highest number of children from other countries. The most popular country to adopt from is China, and the second is Congo. And now, same-sex married couples can adopt from every state. The cost is the big difference as far as the difference between domestic adoptions versus international. The domestic adoption is less expensive and easier to get background info. The price varies from the domestic adoptions, anywhere from $29,000 to $35,000, and internationally anywhere from $30,000 to $35,000. And it stated the list of items that fall under that. But the main differences between the domestic and the international adoptions: domestically, you can adopt. That's if you would. Okay, so you would adopt domestic if you wanted to adopt a newborn. If you wanted an older child, then international adoptions may be for you. I'm not really sure about that, though, because like I said, usually see so many Asian children from other, I've never asked where they're from. I'm just assuming that they're from overseas. If you want a relationship with the parents, you would adopt domestically. But if you want more, if you don't, then internationally. And also, if you want more predictable wait times and costs for the adoption, you would consider adopting internationally. Very interesting stats. Would I still consider adoption if my soon-to-be husband wanted children? That depends. I wouldn't get a baby. You have been tuning in to Drea's Point of View. I can be heard on Podbreed Network, Good Pods, Top Black Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Breaker, Spreaker, and more. Feel free to leave me a comment on my website, www.dreaspointofview.com, or on social media. I'm on Facebook and IG, Drea's Point of View, as well as Twitter, Drea Point. It's been my pleasure bringing you a part of me, and I hope that you remain to be a listener. Until next time, take care.